Hello, my name is Samuel from Samuel31nation Studios podcast, and today we will be discussing the book The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien and why it is frequently challenged or banned by high school students in the United States. Let's find out why. So, The Things That They Carried is a 1990 book by former Vietnam soldier and now American novelist Tim O'Brien. The book is based off his experiences in the Vietnam War. O'Brien expressed feelings of guilt, fear, confusion, and resistance. He felt three out of those four things. He felt guilt, fear, and confusion after many fellow members of his Alpha Company, which is basically the group in the military that he was in, died in the war. Some by shot, some by dying by just drowning in the river. And he felt guilt and fear. He felt guilt for the deaths and fear of his own life. And he felt he felt confusion and guilt after his fourth/fifth grade crush named Linda died of cancer. He also felt anger after he was left to die after he was shot for the second time, and the medic named Bobby Johnson couldn't deal with his shock. The shock almost killed him, so he almost died, and the medic couldn't do nothing about it. So he sought revenge by attempting to scare him with a friend named Asar. But that plan failed. The plan failed so bad that O'Brien went with Jensar. With I think I keep saying the name wrong. I don't know. Jensen. I don't know. And went to scare Asar. We never has seen what happened, but they planned it. They jokingly planned it. Overall, I think the book is pretty good. Like I overall think it's a great book. It's a great book to learn experiences from the eyes of a soldier in Vietnam. Even though those stories might not be 100% true, especially with the names and stuff, those are they probably are similar stories to what he has or other people has experienced in Vietnam. Personally, I feel like the book is great for late high school and college age students. So around 16 and 18 for the high school students and about 18 to 21 for the college students. I feel like those themes will work especially well, especially if you have a class in I'm going to take an example for myself. I have a AP US history class this year, and we are actually just I think we are just now on going to the Cold War. So we're getting close to Vietnam. And I just read a book from a Vietnam soldier. So we are getting to those areas. We're not really discussing Vietnam that much because it's a US history class. So it's more focused on how the Americans at the homeland felt about the Cold War and Vietnam. That's how it is for most of the wars, the overseas wars like World War One, World War Two. That's how our class is. But getting to learn those things and getting to learn about Vietnam and stuff, and getting to learn a little bit from the book as well, getting to learn some information, some experiences, and just how it felt like in Vietnam to a certain extent. And it's very readable. It's readable for us for late teens like me. There's some points where it is confusing, like with the names and stuff. But like other than that, it's pretty much a good book. It's a good book to read. It's a good book to get some great information, get some great perspective. especially for the young kids, because like it's not like young, like especially for our generation, because we never really got to see stuff like this. And our generation, like our age, we never really got into seeing that stuff because we're too young. Because we are, like, for me, I'm born in '07. I never got to experience 9/11, all this stuff. Like the worst things that we have saw was the potential stuff for World War III, but that was stopped by COVID, and that's really it. So reading about it, understand how, and reading about it, just looking back at history, like, oh my goodness, like things were different back in these days, and actual human lives were being, like, in danger, and we were going to war, and we were going out there, and we were actually going to war. And it's overall a good book to learn about. It's not a morbid book. It's not like describing in great detail, like, oh, he is like this and that, but like it's just kind of describing the experiences. It's kind of like how, like, you go to a soldier, and you talk to them, and you get stories from them, and they tell you stories about it. That's kind of how it feels. And there's some moments where he like reflects on stuff, and he gives perspectives from like his now, which also kind of contrasts, which is good, like a contrast of like he sees like the stuff going on now and how he is now, and kind of thinks about that. And I'm like, well, and I'm like, wow, and I'm like, and him being what, 43 at the time of him writing this is knowing that like he served the military, and he wrote this book not too long after, so he got fond memories of it. So it's nice to learn about that stuff and understand this stuff. Personally, how I would do it for school libraries is I would allow it, but I would have whoever the staff is recommend, like, if any student wants to check it out, recommend, like tell a student, hey, this might be a little bit, might have a little bit morbidness to it. It's not gonna be like, especially if it's like a freshman or a sophomore, like, be like, hey, this might be a little bit mature, so if it gets like too much for you, then just return it. Don't worry about it. If it's like too much for you to handle or too much to read, then just kind of like, because it's also a long book. It's 245 pages. It took me about 2 months to read. So it's a long book too. So it's a lot of like stuff you gotta process, and a lot of stuff you have to go over and o- look and read. So I would definitely recommend it, especially for kids around around college age. If you just want a book to read about, if you want to learn about like Vietnam and stuff, and learn from like a soldier, someone who was in Vietnam, um, then I'll definitely recommend it to you. I would definitely recommend it. But some people do want to beg to differ and don't want high school age children to read this book. So, uh, so let's see why these people think that, and who thinks this way as well. We'll find out soon. The Things They Carry was challenged by Marshall University in 2021, also being challenged by a school director and reverend in Penridge, Pennsylvania in 2001, a grandparent in Lucedale, Mississippi in 2003, and a foster mother in Arlington Heights, Illinois in 2007. That's a little closer than I like, but dang. It was also banned in Mississippi, retained in Illinois and Pennsylvania, as well as being challenged by a school district. I think it's Troop Independent School District, ob- objected to the book and said that it promotes vulgarity and and it was totally rubbish and packed with sexual material and profanity. I can only agree to one of those things. It does have a lot of profanity, but I don't feel any. I didn't really hear, see any. I didn't read or saw any sexual materials in that book. Not really, but that's my opinion. And also in Palmer, Alaska, the school board of Palmer, Alaska, voted to remove the book from the curriculum, even because the potential of offensive content. Even though the author did admit that he wasn't expecting teenagers and young adults to read this, and it also does have, like I said earlier, it does have explicit language, but not really bad. It's really like it's not like real bad. It's like nor it's moderate. You could definitely know. Like you could definitely tell there is. It's not like it slips up a couple times. Like it's definitely in the book. And also it's just a darker theme, a darker tone, a darker theme, a darker tone. But overall, well, the book does have a great message that war is not fun. War is not good. War traumatizes people. War traumatizes the soldiers. Traumatizes the people associated with the soldiers, especially if those soldiers die. It brings a lot of fear, guilt, and just overall hurt. War is not fun. And it also shows a recent memory, a recent, but somewhere far away. Vietnam. Vietnam was what, the 80s? Right? If I'm not wrong, Vietnam War. Uh, Vietnam War. That's that's the end of 1975. So that's recent. That's like 50 years ago. That's recent. 1969 to 1973. That's not that far. That is not that far from us. We still are affected by the actions of Vietnam today. That's why there is some there is so many I think if I'm not wrong, the actions of Vietnam is why China and North Korea, not North Korea, but I think why China is like communist and stuff. If I'm not wrong, don't quote me on this, but I I heard that the actions of the Cold War in Vietnam are a reason why China is communist now, and and that still affects us to this day. Obviously, if you look at the news, so having that be a thing and having Vietnam basically kind of representing from a Vietnam soldier who fought in Vietnam. See, that perspective, even though it might not like, even though the characters might not be true, it's a little nonfiction. It still represents what soldiers felt, what people felt. If they were so, what the soldiers felt, they felt guilt, they felt what this stuff. They were mentally hurt. They did have PTSD. They did have injuries and maybe messed up procedures that could have affected them for the rest of their lives. So overall, this book teaches the horror that came from Vietnam, and also to get back to the script, why we should probably stay out of war and not make the same mistakes we did in the past. Really. We shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be going into wars like this. People die for this. People get traumatized for this. Families get traumatized for this. Honestly, honestly. And more people who are experiencing this, that are the survivors, should speak out and have their voice heard, not their voice blocked because they had a few cuss words in their book. Teens be cussing a lot nowadays. They do. Just look at any high school. Look at any high school in the nation. Look at any. A lot of the teenagers do be using profanity sometimes. So it's not too hard to say that's outdated. The bands are outdated. But that's just my opinion. I want to thank my English teacher for allowing me to make podcast, make this podcast for my English project and having that as an available option for me. I want to thank her for that, and hopefully this video is good enough for me to get a good grade. But I will find out soon. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, evening, night, and just life in general. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Bye. I'm out. Peace.